do that. Give me your, tell me how many parts your quiz has and which problem number you want to look at. For it. 2 hearts and number 2. Most of you, as I graded them, I went through and tried to figure out where you made a mistake. Most of you, it's arithmetic stuff. You're just not being careful with your arithmetic. So here's what, well, first of all, we're probably going to want to distribute, right? So 4x plus 1 equals 16x plus 24 minus 6x minus 2. So we'll collect some like terms here. 16 minus 6 is 10, and 24 minus 2 is 22. Yeah. So far, so good? So now we got to get all the x's on one side, so I'll bring them over here. So negative 6x equals 21. Did I subtract 1? So x equals negative 21 over 6.
That's what I thought.
Wait a second, we're not done. What's wrong with 21 over 6? It reduces. So 3, so the answer should be negative 7/2. All right. Anybody else have a question about one of the quiz questions that you missed? Aiden?
2 hearts and number 6.
2 hearts, number 6. So the equation of the line is 5x minus 2y equals 1, and we want a perpendicular slope. So we want to know what is the slope of a line that would be perpendicular to this one. Well, whether it's parallel or perpendicular, the first thing you have to do is find the slope of this line. And we do that by getting y by itself. So I'll move the 5x over. Okay, so I subtracted 5x. And now I'm going to divide by negative 2. So the slope of the given line is 5/2. Everybody with me? That's the slope of the given line. So if you were wanting to be parallel, you would say 5/2. But we want to be perpendicular, so we have to change the sign and flip it over. So it'd be negative 2/5. Lauren?
2 hearts
Number 3, we want to write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. And the points that we are containing are 1, 2, and negative 3, 10. So write the equation of the line. Well, I need to finish. I can't stop halfway. So the starting point is to find the slope. So 10 minus 2, negative 3 minus 1. We want to be really careful, guys. Order does not matter when you're doing slope, but you have to do them both in the same order. So if I did 10 minus 2, then I have to do negative 3 minus 1. If I do 2 minus 10, then I have to do 1 minus negative 3. Do you see what I'm saying? Some of you are mixing and matching. We want to make sure we go the same direction. So what have I got? 8 over negative 4, negative 2. Now I know my slope is negative 2, so I'm going to pick a point. Tom, what's on your iPad, dear? Just flip it down for me if you would, thank you. So y minus 2 equals negative 2x minus 1. Y minus 2 equals negative 2x plus 2. Watch your arithmetic. And then y equals negative 2x plus 4. Everybody follow all that? See what I did? With the equation of my line, using that point, you can use either one. And then distribute it and got y by itself. I want to have happen is I want you to say, oh my gosh, that's such a stupid mistake. I want you to know what you're doing. And I'm hoping that what you missed was because you were careless. If you don't know how to do a problem, we need to go over it right now. Please ask if there's a problem you're not sure how to do. Yeah, Caleb? 3 hearts, number 1. 3 hearts, number 1. This is another one just like this, only the equation is this. So we want to know what is the slope of a line perpendicular to this. So what did we say we were going to do? First we have to find the slope of this one by getting y by itself.
Yes.
So negative 5y equals negative 3x plus 7. So I'm moving the 3x over, Kayla. And then I'm going to divide by negative 5. So y will equal 3/5 x minus 7/5. And I don't really care about that. This is the slope. That's what I look at. Remember when you write your equation, it's mx plus b. M is the slope. M is the thing hooked to the x. So this slope is 3/5, so my perpendicular slope will be negative 5/3. Remember, when you do perpendicular, you turn it over and make it negative, or change its sign. Okay? All right. Well, tomorrow, remember, tomorrow is a different day, right? Remember that?
You don't have your class.
No, you do. I think you do tomorrow. Because I think tomorrow is a special day 2. So tomorrow we do have alpha. You do not have late arrival tomorrow. Your late arrival is on Friday instead?
Yeah.
Check your schedule. Please make sure you're good on that. We do have class tomorrow.
What is the thing?
Oh, come on, you're going to be happy.
No, that's not a resident at all.
I am not ready.
I don't think they have early dismissal, do we?
Yeah, that's not a move, bro.
Yeah, parent-teacher conference tomorrow.
Oh, is that why they took away the late start?
That's why they wanted to put it on Friday instead.
Is there like an email with the schedule?
Probably in your student bulletin that you got last week would be my guess. I have no idea. I have the schedule for tomorrow, so if you want to take a picture of it later, you can. I have the schedule. I'll see if it says. Doesn't look like there's a later, an early dismissal tomorrow.
Yeah, it says no late start.
You got one.
Do we have a quiz tomorrow?
We do have a quiz tomorrow. That is why I just handed out a practice quiz. Okay? So here we go. This is our next quiz, which is tomorrow. You should be able to do all of this, although we need to practice a little bit. So look at the first problem. How many times have we done these problems? A lot. So we're all going to get these right. Midpoint. Stop. Midpoint. What word is associated with midpoint? Middle. Average. And when we average, how do we do that? Add and divide by 2. So my x's will be 1 plus 5 over 2. Those are my x's. Add the x's, divide by 2, average. Y's, negative 2 plus 6 divided by 2. So your midpoint is an actual point. Jacob, you okay, buddy?
Yeah, I just dropped my paper.
Oh, okay. So that's what, 3, 2? Same points. B, what does this mean when there's nothing? I mean, it's just Jacob. That means distance. And when you hear the word distance, you should immediately think about a radical. Midpoint is average, we add. Average, add, divide by 2. Distance is a difference. Average, add. AA. Difference, distance. DD. So I'm going to subtract my x's. Square it. Subtract my y's. Square it. A few of you are not keeping that straight, so you might want to label these if it helps you, so that you make sure you get the right things with the right things. X with X, Y with Y. Will?
Does it matter what order?
No, does not matter. And actually, I like to go in the same order just like I do with slope, but I don't even have to do that with distance, because since I'm squaring, it doesn't matter. But you absolutely have to subtract. All right, so here we go. 1 minus 5. 4 squared is 16. Remember, when you square, it's going to become positive. There shouldn't be any negatives under here. When you're squaring, it's automatically going to be positive. Negative 2 minus 6. Negative 8. Squared is 64. Adding together, we get the square root of, well, we get 80, which we have to break down. And some of us, come on now, we got to get this figured out. Some of us are still struggling. It's 8 times 10, right? Which is 4 times 2 and 5 times 2 and 2 times 2. So the only numbers that I use, if I have broken it down, I don't use it. I use just the ones that are at the end of the stems. So those are the numbers I'm looking at. Every group of 2 comes out. So a 2 comes out. Another 2 comes out. And the only thing left is root 5. This is a factor tree. Everything is multiplied. So you're going to multiply these, and the answer is 4 root 5. Right? All right, and then finally, we're using the same 2 points, but now we're finding the slope of the line. That's M. Slope is M. How do we find M? Bless you. Y minus Y. So 6 minus negative 2. Y and Y. Make sure you're doing the Y's. Over 5 minus 1. X minus X. So what's 6 minus negative 2? 8 over 4. So your slope is 2. Those kind of questions have been on every quiz we've taken so far, right? Just about. So we need to get those right. Now these other ones, this is a little bit newer material. Notice that I'm having you solve the same equation. Oh, shoot. Put an equal 0 on that. That's not even an equation. Put an equal 0 on that. Sorry about that. You're going to solve this equation with the quadratic formula. Okay, so stop and think a minute. If you don't have it memorized yet, obviously by tomorrow it needs to be memorized. You might want to write it down. You don't have to. I'm not grading that. But you might want to write it down just so it's there in front of you. X equals Say it for me.
Negative b plus or minus the square root of, I don't know what's
E squared.
E squared
Minus
minus 4ac
all over 2a.
2A.
Yeah, if we took a group quiz, we'd get it, right? We need to, everybody needs to remember the formula, okay? So here we go. What's my A, my B, and my C?
A is
A
1.
is 1, B is negative 6, C is 1.
Perfect. So here we go, X equals. Watch it now. What will negative B be? 6. Plus or minus. Remember, when you square it, it becomes positive. So this is going to be 36 minus 4 times A times C all over 2A. What do we got under here? Let's do that arithmetic. What is that?
32.
It's 32. So now we have 6 plus or minus root 32 over 2.
Yes.
What about root 32? Does that one break down?
Yes.
Let's see, it's 4 times 8, which is 2 times 2, and 4 times 2, and 2 times 2. So remember, we only look at the numbers at the ends of the stem. So we got a 2 and a 2, a 2, and a 2, and a 2. We got 5 2's. So what'll come out? A 2 and another 2?
Yes.
So we're gonna have a 4 outside and a 2 left over. This didn't happen yesterday, but we can actually simplify this. We can actually simplify
C
this.
plus or minus 2 root 2.
If you said 3 plus or minus 2 root 2, you are exactly right. Are you the one that said that? Good job.
John, I did.
If we look at these numbers, and they're all divisible by the same number, they all have to be. It's a 3-part deal. They all have to be reducible. Then you go ahead and reduce. So we can take a 2 out of here, here, and here. Notice that what's under the radical is not touched. These are outside numbers. Don't be canceling outside numbers with inside numbers. The 3 outside numbers, that is things, no radicals, outside of the radical. Those will all reduce, and that is your answer. Any question about that? Let's just pretend we had another, let's say we had 4 plus or minus 8 root 6 over 4. Could we cancel on that problem? Yes, because all of the numbers outside the radical are reducible. So that would be 1 plus or minus 2 root 6. 4 goes into there 1 time, 4 goes into there 2 times, 4 goes into there 1 time. The tricky ones are when you have something like this. 3 plus or minus 7 root 6 over 6. That doesn't cancel. That can't reduce. Because if you're going to do it, you have to do it with all of the outside numbers. And while these 2 could reduce, that one can't. So that problem doesn't reduce. If you're going to break it down or simplify it, you have to be able to do it with all 3 of the numbers. Jacob?
If we don't break it out, is it wrong?
Not totally wrong, but you'll miss some credit. Yeah, it's got to be reduced to get full credit. All right, now we're going to do exactly the same problem, but we're going to complete the square. So x squared minus 6x plus 1 equals 0, and we're going to complete the square. So when I'm grading this, I'm not looking at your answer as much as I'm looking at your method. Because I know what the answer is. This better be the answer we get. So who remembers how to complete the square?
So first you have to put the one and get it on the other side.
Yep. So the first thing we do is move that 1 to the other side, making room to add in a new number. Jackson, you remember how to get that new number?
I got it.
You don't. Oh, Liam.
Don't you divide the 6 by 2, multiply it, or square it?
Square it. Multiply by itself or square it. Yes, exactly. So I take, Jackson, look up here. We take half of 6, which is 3, and we square it, which is 9. That's what we add to both sides. So that's how you do it. You take half and square. Then immediately make this a square. So what's going to go inside this parentheses when I make this a square? X minus 3. Remember, that sign's always going to match. So it's going to be x minus 3. And then equals 8. What'd you say? Yep, I square root both sides. So x minus 3 equals plus or minus root 8. And of course, the square root of 8 breaks down, so you'll want to break that down into 2 root 2. So x minus 3 equals plus or minus 2 root 2. And then what's going to happen when I move that 3 to the other side? X equals 3 plus or minus 2 root 2. Now you can write those separately if you want. It's 3 plus root 2 and 3 minus root 2. But you're welcome to write them together. That's the way they come out in the quadratic formula. Does anyone have a question about that? So everybody's clear what the expectation is tomorrow?
Yeah.
Now today during flex, I do have duty, but my duty is to patrol down here. So you're welcome to come down, hang out in the room, and every time I pass by my patrol, I can come in and, double check your work or answer a question or something, okay? You want to come in and practice some more completing a square or something during flex, okay?
Okay.
Okay, all right. Let's see what we've got now. Let's get our notes out. Get a brand new marker out here. Yesterday, when we did one of our problems, we got an eye. How do we get eyes? Where do they come from? What does I mean? The square root of a negative, that's right. So by definition, I is the square root of -1. So obviously somewhere along the line you get these numbers, somebody took the square root of a negative because they all have i's in them. We're going to do some simplifying in the next couple of problems, but first we got to get through our operations here. This is a plus, We're adding to these complex numbers, we're adding two complex numbers, and it's easy. It's exactly what you think it would be. What do you think the sum of these two numbers is? Take a wild guess and you'll be right. 5 minus 3i. In other words, how do we add them? We collect like terms. You collect like terms. It's that easy. So subtraction, same thing. But like with regular numbers, you have to be careful about this. That is going to distribute, that negative is going to distribute all the way through. So that's a minus 6 and a minus I. But now you can add them up. What do we get? Negative 2 plus 2i. There's nothing tricky about this. This is regular collecting like terms. This is a multiplication. Now just look at the way the problem looks and what would be your natural thought? Foil, right? Distribute. Foiling is distribution. Foiling is just the word we use to help us remember how to do it. So we'll take first times first. Outsides. So when I multiply a 3 times a 3i, I get a 9i, just like you'd think. Nothing tricky. Plus 8i on the insides. And then this one is going to be minus 6i squared. So it's a regular FOIL process. Everybody with me to this point? All right, now this is where you have to remember something else. Does anybody remember anything about I squared? Vince? You are exactly right. And why does it equal negative 1? Well, if I is the square root of negative 1, if you square both sides, that radical will go away, and so I squared is negative 1. So you need to, every time you see an I squared, you need to replace it with negative 1. You will never leave an I squared. You'll always make it a negative 1. So we have 12 minus 9i plus 8i plus 6. Now we'll collect like terms, and what do we have? 18 minus I, minus 1i, minus I. Nothing hard about it, but you do have to remember I squared is negative 1. All right, everybody's keeping up? This one is the tricky one. First of all, no canceling. Please don't cancel. Can't do it. Whenever you have pluses and minuses in your problem, unless you can cancel everywhere, don't cancel at all. So I can't cancel everywhere, so I'm not going to cancel at all. Mamuna's got a plan. What is it? Now, we are going to multiply the top and the bottom by something. Think about that for a second. Does anybody remember what we might multiply the top and the bottom by? You're exactly right. We're going to be multiplying. What? Not 6 minus I, 6 plus I. Does anybody know what we call this thing when we change the middle sign? We do this a lot anytime we're doing radicals. When we change the middle sign, do you know what that's called? The conjugate? Well, it's called the conjugate. So we're going to multiply by the conjugate. So on the bottom, I had 6 minus I. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 6 plus I. If I had 4 plus 2i on the bottom, what would I multiply by if that had been on the bottom? 4 minus 2i. You just change the middle sign. Now I do that on the top and the bottom, so oh my gosh, what am I gonna have to do now? Look at that. That's a FOIL on the top and the bottom. So here we go. On the top, 30 plus 5. Go ahead and FOIL. I'll shut up. You see if you can get it FOILed out. Emmett, you got it foiled out? Emmett. Okay. What about this guy down here? What's 3i squared? Did I FOIL right? Does that match your foiling? What about this 3i squared down here? Negative 3. So that will combine with the 30 and leave me with 27. And then these two will combine and leave me with 23i. Now what about this? Negative I squared. That's just positive 1. Which combines with the 36 to make 37. And then what happens to these guys? That is why you did what you did. That's why you did what you did. You are not allowed to have an I in the denominator. So the problem had an I in the denominator. I's are radicals. And there's a rule about radicals in the denominator. Can't have them. So to get rid of them, we multiply by the conjugate. And that got rid of your I in the bottom. Now, look at these numbers. I have a 27, a 23, and a 37. Is that going to reduce it all? No. So that's your answer. That's your answer. Anybody have a question about that? That's a big problem. Sean, you okay? All right, let's see what we got next here. Square root of negative 81. What do you think? Anybody have an idea on an answer? Square root of negative 81. I heard somebody say it. 9i. 9i. And the reason it's 9i is when you see the negative, you immediately pull out the I. We talked about that yesterday when we were solving equations. When you see a negative, out comes the I. The square root of a negative. Out comes the I. So that leaves you with 81, which the square root of 81 is 9. Now, do exactly the same thing with this one. Don't get carried away. What's this equal?
2i.
2i. Everybody okay with that? 2i. What's this equal? 3i. When I multiply them, it's 6i squared, negative 6. Very, very good. Do not multiply these together until you simplify. So you make this 2i, make this 3i, and then you can multiply them together. Okay, part 2. You guys are a smart group, so I think you can answer this question. This looks super complicated, but I'm going to tell you that the answer is obvious. There's no work. You don't have to write anything down. You can look at this problem and tell me the answer. So don't overthink it. Use your common sense. What do you think X and Y are?
3.
X is 3 and Y is 2. It is that easy. X is 3 and Y is 2. Because on each side, you have parts with eyes, you have a number with an eye and a number without an eye. They match up. So the I number over here has to match the I number over here. So if 2i has to be yi, then 2 has to be y. And then the plain numbers, these don't have i's. These are just 3 and x. They have to be equal. Don't overthink it. It's that obvious. So what about this one? Use the same logic on this one. X is 3. And what's y? Is y 7? Wouldn't it have to be negative 7?
It's negative y.
Because it's a negative on that and y? Does that make sense to everybody? So you're looking, whatever's attached to the I has to be equal. Whatever isn't attached to the I has to be equal. All right, now we got a couple of equations to solve. This is actually good practice for our quiz tomorrow. It doesn't tell me how to solve, but let's do one of each, just so we get extra practice for our quiz. So let's complete the square on that one, and we'll use the quadratic formula on this one. Okay, is there anybody that feels comfortable completing the square on this? Mr. Stewart? Great, thank you. You're going to complete the square. Come on up. Is there anybody? What's that?
Your ID to take the back off of your sticker to put your new one on.
Oh, I didn't get my new ID.
Yeah, here it is.
Okay.
I punched it and everything for you.
God bless you, Mrs. Hollis.
It's all ready to go.
I got 2 IDs in here right now. Now I'm going to have my new ID. Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Now, does anybody feel comfortable coming up and doing the quadratic formula on this one? All right, Elliot, thank you. Now, what should the rest of us be doing? Working on them. That is exactly right. Let's be working on them. Okay, yes, it would be, but it's not. What's negative 2 plus 4? Yeah. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to put the plus or minus on this guy. And then move the 2 over so the negative 2 is right on the front. There you go. Got it. All right, so we've got completing the square one done. His question to me was, could we get an I when we do this? And the answer is yes, you can. He didn't because this number was positive, but it is possible to get an I. If this would have been a negative number, we would have had an I in our answer. But this came out positive. Anybody, he did a great job, beautiful work. Anybody have a question about his process? Completing the square. Jackson, we'll give you another chance. Where did this 4 come from right here that he added to both sides? Took half of that guy and squared it. Yep, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Anybody have a question about the completing the square problem? All right, I'm going to look over here. And, oh my gosh, that worked out perfectly. You got a 25 there? So 9 plus or minus What's our denominator of our quadratic formula? 2a, right? 2a. And so a is 2, so our denominator should have been a 4. Does that make sense? So let's see. So he did everything right except that. So 9 plus 5 would be 14 over 4, which is 7 halves. And this would be 4 over 4, which is 1. We're almost done. Hang on. Anybody have a question about either one of these? These are quiz problems tomorrow. We're good? All right, we're going to do the last 2 problems. 4. These are the simplify ones. We've already practiced a couple, but these are the harder ones. We want to make sure we know what to do. Thank you, Elliot, for coming up and doing that. Anybody feel like you could handle either one of these? We did a couple already today. All right, Jacob, which one are you doing?
Oh, it's good.
First one? All right, Jacob's got the first one. Anybody feeling comfortable with the big division problem here? A lot of work, that's right. It's a lot of work. Somebody can do it, right? Thank you, David. Make sure you write big so everybody can read it. Everybody remember what David's doing there? Did you remember on his problem, you're going to need to multiply by the conjugate? And the conjugate is 3 plus 2i? What'd you come up with, Jacob?
26 minus 39.
That's what I got. 26 minus 13i. Anybody else that far? Thank you. Got that done? Everybody good? Yep, you do. Yep. No, wait, what'd you do with the negative 14? Yeah, well, then you're going to add it to that. See, because now you can add this. Yep. Yep, that's it. Remember, the whole purpose of him multiplying by the conjugate like that is so what happens in the denominator? The eyes go away. Yeah, so if your eyes don't go away, you got a problem. The eyes have to go away in the bottom. They're okay on the top, but they need to go away in the bottom. So he ended up with 1 plus 31i over 13. So don't just blindly copy that down. Let's take a minute, let everybody finish, and make sure we're all getting the same answer. Good with that? Okay, this is what the original problem was. So make sure that you're using the original problem. And he multiplied by 3 plus, so everything was positive on the top. So he had a 10 and a 21. That's going to be positive. The only way you're going to get negatives or changing signs is if you have an I squared. So that made that a negative 14. But the plain I term is supposed to stay positive. Alright, I pushed back the homework date to Wednesday. Homework is due Wednesday, which is about a week from today. And I think I'm safe on that. We'll be done with the material by then. So if you're doing homework, if you're planning to do homework, you could actually at this point have every assignment done except P7. We've gone through all of it now except P7. So if you're behind on that homework, get caught up. It'll be due next Wednesday.